to start this particular webinar series, we have a most, I think, appropriate person who has lived the life as a researcher to drive the implementation in the field. So, Dr. Mashelkar is a distinguished chemical engineer and science administrator whose work has significantly shaped India's research and innovation ecosystem. He served as director of the National Chemical Laboratory and later as Director General of the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, where he provided leadership to a large national network of laboratories and strengthened the linkage between scientific research, industry, and intellectual property creation. He has held several key national and international positions, including President of the Indian National Science Academy and President of the Institute of Chemical Engineers, United Kingdom. He was the first chairperson of the Academy of Scientific and Innovation Research and has served on the Scientific Advisory Council to the Prime Minister of India, chairing multiple committees on science, technology, and innovation policy. Dr. Mashelkar's research contributions span transport phenomena, polymer science, engineering, polymerization, reactor modeling, and non-Newtonian fluid mechanics. His work and leadership have been recognized through the Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, and Padma Vibhushan, and he is elected as a Fellow of the Royal Society, UK. So we have such a distinguished speaker with us, and this is our webinar series started with you, sir. You are the first speaker in this particular webinar series, and we are really feeling privileged and honored to have you here. So I request you to start your talk, and after you can take 40-45 minutes. After that, the session be open. So that's the setups. So over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for doing me this privilege and an honor. I consider IIT Bombay as my institution. I have been associated with it for a long, long time in various capacities. I have been a great admirer of the institute as it combines excellence and relevance like few other institutions in India do. And as you probably know, the IIT Bombay Monash Research Academy, I've been the chairman now. I've lost the number of years. There's a count of number of years that I've been associated with. Very, very proud to be associated with you. And again, congratulations on this great series, the GAISH, in terms of particularly sustainability. I appreciate this particular opportunity for a number of reasons, because one of the challenges on sustainability is, of course, the issue of energy, energy security, green energy, and we witnessed what happened in the recent crisis, of course. And it's a matter of pride that India stood unscathed during this turmoil that we had from February to June. But what is the future like? So this lecture is going to be more on the future. And I say so because uh, I only believe in thinking of the future because that is where we are going to spend the rest of our life. That's number one. Number two is my lecture is very much based on my book, More from Less for More. In 6 months, this had become a national bestseller. And I am going to talk not so much about the book, but the strategy that the book suggests, as a matter of fact, how widely it is applicable, not only energy, but beyond energy, across all the sustainable development goals. So I've taken sustainability as a broad topic, of which energy is a part. So let me share the screen first with you. Yeah. Can you see the first slide? Can you see the first slide?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. So as you can see, the title is Innovation-Driven Sustainability, More from Less for More. I don't have to describe to you the sustainability crisis that we have today. It arises in variety of forms. Climate crisis and extreme weather events, those we have been witnessing uh, around the year and around the world. Biodiversity loss and ecosystem collapse is another challenge that we have. Water scarcity and declining groundwater reserves is another challenge. We have the challenge of food stress and declining agricultural productivity. Air pollution and deteriorating public health is again a big challenge, especially for India, as we know. And dependence on fossil fuels and energy insecurity is something that we are staring at. So I don't have to describe why of this lecture. The issue is what and how. Now, what is the solution? You know, the solution, I believe, lies in Mahatma Gandhi's wisdom. Once he had said, Earth provides enough to satisfy everyone's need, but not everyone's greed. What does it mean? I think there was a silent message here that use the exhaustible resources so carefully and so much less that you can create more and more out of it and leave those resources for generations to come, the second generation, the third generation, the fourth generation. So this is converted into what I like to call as more from less for more. Now, it goes back to 2008 when I uttered those words, more from less for more. Let me describe to you what had happened. I was elected as the fellow of Australian Technology, Science, and Engineering Academy. And it so happened that I was the first Indian to have been elected. So I said they don't know enough about India because I could list out myself 100 people who were better than me and they had chosen me. So I thought I should talk to them about something peculiarly Indian. So this was a lecture in Canberra that I gave. And you see the president, Robin Batterham, sitting next to me, a very eminent chemical engineer, former science advisor to the Prime Minister of Australia. And the title of my talk was From Gandhi to Gandhi in Engineering, More from Less for More People. Now, this particular paper that I mean, a talk that I gave in 2008, C.K. Prahlad and I used to sit on a number of boards. We had lots of interactions. And we decided that the business people must know about more from less for more, Gandhian engineering, and what is its relevance as far as the business is concerned. So we published the paper in Harvard Business Review called Innovation's Holy Grail, More from Less for More. And I'm very happy and proud to say that this has been now ranked amongst the top 10 must-read papers in innovation. So this was in the July-August issue of 2010, almost 16 years ago. But interestingly, within just few months, the World Economic Forum had a special session on more from less for more, because somehow or the other, the World Economic Forum was able to gauge the importance of doing more from less for more for the whole world in a way. Now, let me explain to you as engineers why you talk about more from less for more. What is our normal innovation? Our normal innovation is more from more for less and less people. For example, take the case of artificial limb. You can see this unfortunate gentleman who has lost his feet is using a $12,000 foot. This belongs to the category of more from more for less and less people, because how many of us can afford a $12,000 foot? The poor certainly cannot. And that's what we keep on doing. iPhone 5, iPhone 6, iPhone 10, iPhone 17, they keep on becoming more and more expensive and less people can afford it. Now, as far as India is concerned, the word jugaad is very popular. The term jugaad is very popular. But what is jugaad? Jugaad is getting less and less, that is less from less for more and more. That means you make it cheap, you make it affordable, but you make it somehow or the other sort of functional. Now, if you see more from more for less and less people, MML, increases inequalities. Why? Because few can afford $12,000 food. Less from less for more and more people also increases inequality. Why? Because this individual with a wooden leg cannot compete with you while walking, while running, and so on and so forth. So our solution is really more from less for more and more people. Less because we are talking about a $28 foot, and more because you will see the kind of performance this Jaipur foot is able to show. And therefore, being $28, it actually can be won by number of people in the world below the poverty line. Now look at this foot, the way it performs. Now you can see this Jaipur foot being worn and this gentleman climbing on the tree, and see the flexibility of this particular foot as he walks along. Okay, almost like a normal foot. And then you will see that he jumps. Can you see it is strong enough to withstand that impact? Okay. And now what you will see will be amazing. He wears that foot and then runs. Now, when he runs, he can run a kilometer in 4 minutes 30 seconds. If I was having a live audience, there would have been a wide applause, as a matter of fact, which I'm unable to see. This is a problem of doing things online. And he can go about way in the normal way, normal life. Now, normally in a live audience, I ask a question. How many of you can run a kilometer in 4 minutes 30 seconds? And believe me, no matter what is the size of the audience, like around 100, which it is now, or 1,000 that I have spoken to, 1,500 and so on, not more than 1%, 2%, 4% hands go up. What does it mean? It means he is able to beat 95% of you. If he was given a wooden foot, he would have been crawling. If he was given LLM, less from less for more and more people, the jugaad, he would not have been able to compete with you. He would have taken hours to go a kilometer. And $12,000 foot, more from more for less, of course, he could not afford it. So the question doesn't arise. And here he is able to beat 90%, 5% of it. So when it comes to sustainability, the sustainability goal on removing inequalities that I showed little earlier, basically more from less for more is the only way by which you can actually win. Now, after I gave this lecture in Canberra in 2008, I went around the world like a possessed person, talking about how important more from less for more was. I remember speaking in US, in Washington, for example, in the World Bank, uh, and I remember they're actually creating a more from less for more project. I was the president of Global Research Alliance, like we have CSR India, CSR Australia, CSR South Africa, Fraunhofer Gesellschaft Germany, VTT Finland, DTI Denmark, TNO Netherlands, and so on. All right. So we had a World Bank project on doing well by doing good for the whole world. And one of the projects was actually on more from less for more, inclusive innovation that was done successfully in Vietnam. I spoke in Asia, for example, Asia Development Bank in Manila, and they created projects on creating more from less for more. I spoke in Europe, and within that was Brussels, and European Commission had invited me to speak. I addressed around $2,000. 2,000 people. I remember me being asked a question. Well, more from less for more is important for India. Yeah, what about Europe? Is it important? And one gentleman got up and said, "Don't answer that. I will answer that." And he said how important it was for them with the inequalities that exist in Europe, including the refugees and migrants and so on and so forth. And there are also people below the so-called poverty line. I spoke in Beijing uh, in the World Bank organized sort of conference because China was getting very worried about the inequalities rising and social disharmony rising. I gave the keynote there, I remember. Spoke at several other places, including in Tokyo, because the conference was on sustainable development goals, but they actually had the wisdom to think that more from less for more is the solution for all the sustainable development goals. And this lecture is actually based on this particular conviction that more from less for more is the solution for sustainable development goals. Spoke in Colombo, Cape Town, Pretoria, Medellin in White World Association of Industrial Technology Research Organizations with 155 nations. So all around the world, I tried to spread this message. And then came this particular book. You see here, Sushil Borde, my co-author, is a great innovator himself. He heads the Reliance Innovation uh, uh, Leadership Center. And this book was published in September last year. And by March, it had become a sort of a national bestseller. This sustainable development goal, as I said, I'm going to go beyond energy. If you look at SDG 3, it is good health and well being for all at all ages. Okay. How does MLM help? More from less for more help in this? Actually, MLM driven inclusive innovations can deliver sustainable healthcare access equality despite income inequality. And if you look at India, it does need the MLM paradigm to meet these challenges. Why? Because first, you require affordability, because low cost to be enjoyed by people across all income segments, whether you are rich or poor. Things must be affordable. More importantly, equally importantly, they must be accessible. Villages, for instance, they are far cut off from modern healthcare systems, hospitals, and so on. So it must be accessible in remotest part of the country with no dependence on proximity to cities. Then there must be high quality, excellence, affordable excellence. Normally, these two terms don't go together, but we insist that they must go together. So, healthcare of excellent quality and performance using highest technology to solve the problem must be available. The user friendly products and services that are friendly, irrespective of individual skill levels. They must be integrated so that multiple devices can be integrated into one unified offering to cover holistic health screening. And finally, in the new digital world, it has to be entirely digital, eliminating human error and ensuring real time data capturing and output. Now, at first sight, this will look impossible, but you will find that it can become possible. And why it is important? We take up just the screening and diagnosis issue. What is the cost of lack of affordable screening? Now, if you are in the early screening zone, when you are in stage 0, let us say, or before stage 1, the costs are lower and you are easily curable. But the moment you move into this zone with stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, it becomes impossible to survive. As you can see, look at the costs. And in fact, two-thirds of the women, for example, die because they are in this zone. So if there was early detection, which was affordable, you can easily be saved. Now, is it possible? Now, that's what Anjali Mashelkar Foundation tried to do, which I established in my mother's name around 14 years ago, 15 years ago. And what it does is it creates, it gives prizes to those who are ahead of the curve, who create the next practice, not just copy the best practice. I'm not a great believer in best practice because when you say I'm doing best practice, I'm following the best practice created by somebody else. India of my dreams is not that. India of my dreams is the one that creates the next practice, which becomes the best practice for others. And therefore, this foundation is actually supporting such innovators. Let me show you the kind of innovators that we have had so far. All these innovators over a period of time meet the criteria of affordable excellence. They meet the criteria of making high technology work for the poor. And they work on different things, like Easy Touch Plus is a uh, easy determination of sugar. Just put your finger and you know what your sugar levels are. Easy check is actually put your finger and you know what your hemoglobin is. By using photoplethysmography, that becomes possible. IHRA is again uh, artificial intelligence based uh, indicators of some 16 indicators that you get. Shwasa, you just cuff into a smartphone and you know whether you're TB. Oral scan, a toothbrush like system electronic device is moved around your mouth and you know where your cancer and so on. Now, I won't have time to actually describe the work of all of these. All that I can say is that there is something common that you have, and that is some of these devices. For example, these are disruptive and game changing MLM innovations like Shasa, iBrace. These are all in the market. They're all FDA approved. Uh, uh, Many of them are in 15 countries, some of them are in 20 countries, and so on and so forth. And we help them to bring them to speed, scale, and create sustainable businesses out of them. Now, this uh, book, More from Less for More, actually carries the uh, sort of stories of these winners and what it took. And Soumya Swaminathan had this to say: the book goes beyond philosophy. It provides clear levers and pathways to make affordable, inclusive healthcare reality. Bill Assertine from Harvard says the transformative innovations of the Anjani Mashelkar Foundation hold immense promise for the future of public health care. And Cyrus Poonawalla, CMD of Serum Institute, says that the work of Anjani Mashelkar Foundation featured in the book is a powerful example of making high technology work for all. Just give you a couple of examples like Shwasa. What you have in Shwasa is something where you have a mobile phone, you just cuff into it, basically, the cuff sounds, where the cuff is used as a biomarker. And you can quite clearly see that in comparison to the spirometer, which is normally used for detecting the lung health, spirometer costs 150,000, 1,50,000 rupees. Shwasa, you already have the mobile phone. Assessment costs, there are 1,500 as against 10 rupees in Shwasa. And time for results is not just 90 minutes, it is instant. And most importantly, because a lot of students will be watching this, I want to emphasize that when you do inclusive innovation like this, the kind of science that you do, for example, there are two papers in Nature on Shwasa, and they have been published in all these journals. So, excellence and relevance can go together, is what I want to emphasize by demonstrating this. Now, the individual who has developed Shwasa is not a PhD holder, but he's able to get papers in Nature. It shows that if you have excellence, if you have quality, what you can actually achieve. iBreast exam, for example, is something where it's a handheld scanner which is just moved around the breast. No necessity of mammography. Mammography costs, the equipment cost is 80 lakh. This is just 6 lakh. The assessment will take 1,500 to 3,000 rupees. Here it is just 150 rupees. And time for results, as we can see, is negligible in comparison to sort of mammography. And this is now available in 20 plus countries. So this is affordable excellence, so as to say. And Lancet, the journal, said that the best cancer screening is actually, this is the big bridge. It's a great certificate. The point I'm trying to make is that these are not jugards. These are very high science, very high technology based examples of affordable excellence. Let me move on from there to what is very important for sustainability, and that is speed and scale. I've been the member of the board of directors of Reliance for 17 years, and Mukesh Bhai was kind enough to ask me to chair the Reliance Innovation Council. And we had members, he himself became a member, interestingly. He always innovates. John Marilyn, the Nobel laureate, was a member. Bob Grubbs, Nobel laureate, was a member. C.K. Prahlad was a member. Bill Asseltine, George Whitesides, who is the highest cited scientist in the world. By the way, the market cap of his companies is close to $30 billion. And he's the highest cited scientist in the world. Great example of Saraswati and Lakshmi going together. Now, I remember that once Mukesh Bhai and I had a discussion, and he said, Doc, we must leapfrog to something. And I said, do you know, Mukesh Bhai, why does the frog leap? He says, no. Then I told him he leaps because he's afraid of the predator and he jumps a few feet. Do we want to be afraid of our competitor and jump a few feet reactively, or do we want to pole vault? The size of the pole is the size of your aspiration. And that actually led to the book Leapfrogging to Pole Vaulting, right? And this became also the best business book of the year. Now, if you see the more from less for more that Mukesh Bhai has been able to do. So India pole vaulted from 155th to number one position, not leapfrog to 155th to 100, but straight to the first position in mobile data usage after Jio came in. This is where the rest of the country stood. This is where India stood. And you can see after Jio's entry in February 17, we are number one and we continue to be number one. So MLM can be done with speed, but it can be done with scale. For example, onboarding 50 million customers in just 83 days. Telephone took 50 years, mobile took 12 years, YouTube took 4 years, Facebook 3 years, Twitter took 2 years, and Reliance did it just in 83 days. And also rapid disruption, M&M innovation for all. If you look at the picture before Geo and after Geo, the 4G Voltofin costs dropped dramatically. As you can see, the data per GB cost went down by a factor of 100, and the voice expenditure came to zero. Voice free, and data was 4 rupees per GB, as you will basically remember. So when we talk about more from less for more, it is really for less, far less, really for more, because today Jio has something like 500 million customers, and also giving much more because it is 4G LTE, not 2G or 3G. Now, India has been pole vaulting. The word pole vaulting is very close to my heart. We became world's fastest and largest deployment of LEDs, light emitting diode. That itself is a great story. World's fastest and largest financial inclusion through JAM. World's fastest and largest jump in mobile data consumption, Jio being the key driver. World's fastest and largest digital payments, UPI being the key driver. And today you heard Greece also adopting these. So now the issue is something that is close to your heart. What about sustainable energy transformation? Can we pole vault it or not? Now, when Reliance decided to go into new energy, and they would be the world's largest producers of solar electricity and the cheapest, as we sort of go along. There was this Reliance New Energy Council that was created. Again, Mukesh Bhai asked me to chair it. And we had kind of words who's who as members. I think most of you who work in energy areas will know these. For example, Martin Green, he's father of photovoltaics. In a sense, 85 to 90% of solar photovoltaic technology uses his technology. or you look at Mr. Wind, you know, Henrik Streisdal, for example, from Denmark, and so on and so forth. I'll not describe each one of them, but each one of them is something in their own field. So we had this New Energy Council, and there are lots of lessons we learned from them. And what we found was that in order to pole vault, you really require moonshots. All right, you really require grand challenges, and they are critical to achieve sustainable energy transformation. But they are important, but they are not enough. You will have breakthrough technologies, okay, but you require also policy support, all right, backed up by big ambitions. And what I'm going to demonstrate to you is how such moonshots can be actually taken. I think the first generation of More from Less for More had focused on affordable products. But what I'm going to now talk about is the next generation of MLM that will focus on sustainable systems, creating more economic value with fewer natural resources and lowering to the impact or the benefit for all. Now, some of them are obvious, by the way. Like, for example, look at maximizing the output from existing assets before building new ones. The problem India has is stranded assets, for example, where 60 gigawatt renewable projects stranded by transmission bottlenecks, 25 gigawatt gas assets sitting idle because that's a wasted capacity, coal plants operating at 68% of planned load factor. Now, if you do the more from less for more, smart optimization, which is AI driven smart dispatch and dynamic load balancing, or time of day pricing plus digital twins for grids, or predictive maintenance to maximize grids, you can easily get radical transformation with existing assets, actually 20 to 30% more output, almost for a fraction of a new capital expenditure. Coal is coming back into the picture now because can we do more from less for more? That means we have to go beyond burning. So instead of burning coal once for electricity, can we convert coal into methanol, to dimethyl ether, hydrogen chemicals, and so on and so forth? For example, National Chemical Laboratory had this 250 kilogram per day pilot plant. And after this LPG crisis came, because DME is a substitute for LPG, the Center for High Technology of Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas sanctioned the pilot plant moving from 250 kilogram to 2.5 tons per day, and that will go into large amount. Now here you can see for coal you don't have to go begging. Coal to methanol, that is via syngas, is a huge technology, and dimethyl ether is of course a greener fluid, less NOx, less SOx, and so on and so forth. So that is one strategy that one can easily adopt. Then more from less for more in terms of more energy from less infrastructure for the benefit of more people. And that is distributed renewable energy networks. For example, use of decentralized solar, wind, microgrid systems to provide clean, reliable energy to neighborhoods, reducing dependency on centralized fossil fuel grids. For example, in Freiburg, Germany, is now internationally recognized here Europe's model for solar city, hosts over 400 rooftop solar system generating 10 million kilowatt hour annually. Feed-in tariff policies guarantees 20-year fixed payments to producers, and so on and so forth. Now, M&M innovations for sustainable energy transformations really need a revolution, not just renovation, not incremental innovation. It also requires unprecedented cost performance, not just marginal improvements. And really, as I said earlier, you have to go for next practice, not just for best practice. You can't just copy. Now, for example, SDG 7, Sustainable Development Goal 7, is on affordable and clean energy. All right, that is what Gesh tries to focus. Now, here is an unorthodox idea. Can we have solar at night? More energy with less additional infrastructure for more people. And there are these UNSW, University of New South Wales scientists, are developing devices that generate electricity using nighttime temperature differences. Thermoradiative diodes, they work opposite to solar cells by emitting infrared radiation. They produce electricity when warmer than surrounding environment, radiating excess heat, and move from technology that sleeps at sunset to one that works around the clock and generating more value from existing solar infrastructure. This is a classical case. Looks like a dream, but why not? You have to dream. The next is, of course, quantum dots. They do not ask nature for more sunlight. They ask science to make better use of the sunlight nature has already given us. So it is actually up to 15% relative boost in silicon PV power you can have. Already there are papers that have appeared, patterns that have appeared, improved efficiency, occupying less space. It's a real case of more from less for more. Then bladeless wind turbines delivering MLM looks like a contradiction, but University of Glasgow, they have optimized bladeless wind turbine designs using advanced simulations. These bladeless turbines generate electricity through vortex-induced vibration instead of rotating blades. And slender mass structures oscillate in wind, converting motion into electrical energy. And the output is over 4 times higher than current bladeless prototypes. So actually what we are doing here is turning vortex-induced vibration from an engineering nuisance into a source of electricity. This is a classic example of creating more value from less complexity for the benefit of more people. Delivering MLM by turning every roof into a power plant, from centralized energy systems to distributed embedded infrastructure, for example. Because the mandate for all new buildings, solar generating by design and uh, storage enabled for resilience, EV charging ready, and grid interactive infrastructure, you can say that then you will be having the roof no longer merely covers a home, it empowers it. A passive structure becomes an active power station. And when millions of such roofs can come alive, every city can become a distributed power plant. The fossil free growth zones, for example, for delivering MLM, instead of national transition, waiting for everyone to agree, designate dedicated areas. And the mobility must be clean, fuel based, new buildings net zero ready, industrial heat plants, decarbonization linked, and all public procurement green first. Just a policy change can make, again, a classical case of MLM. Now, if you look at SDG 17, what it says that we must have partnerships for our goals. Now, you can do partnerships because the ultimate less is not less steel or less silicon, but it is less reinvention. Each one of us spends less money by sharing. Now, what can we share? Modular reactor designs, next-gen battery chemistries, inverter architectures, thermal storage designs, low-cost electrolyzer systems, and so on and so forth. So the ultimate more is not merely more products, it is more minds innovating together. Now, you have to focus moonshots, not just roadmaps. And this will take a lot of time to explain, but let me explain a few things. For example, if we aim at a moonshot of 10 times cheaper long duration energy storage, then you're talking about less storage costs, less curtailment, fewer fossil backup plants, but you will get more renewable electricity available 24 into 7, creating far more affordable clean energy for billions. Zero carbon steel at fossil cost priority. Less carbon dioxide, less dependence on coal will create more sustainable infrastructure and will be for more greener industrialization worldwide. Look at room temperature seasonal energy storage, for example. Less energy loss, less refrigeration or cryogenic systems will create more year-round renewable utilization and will have or more reliable clean energy across. Or looking at modular offshore renewable islands, desert to development solar belts, AI managed transnational super grids, and so on. I'm going to leave this presentation with you. It is already there. I think when you have a choice of research problems that you are always looking for, we have to look at such breakthrough because if these breakthroughs become possible, currently they look impossible. But everything was impossible till it became possible. Even a presentation like this looked impossible a few years ago, all right, 20 years ago, but I'm making it today. So I think we have to dream. Similarly, building a viable hydrogen economy, again, there are transformative MLM driven moonshots. For example, electrochemical green ammonia synthesis directly from water and air. Less because it is less energy, fewer process steps, no fossil derived hydrogen and low carbon dioxide emission. And that will create more because more sustainable ammonia and hydrogen carrier production will be there. And for more people because there you will have affordable fertilizers, clean fuels, agriculture, shipping and industry. Already, as you know, Reliance has signed a contract on supplying green ammonia actually to Samsung for the next 15 years. So it is not impossible. It is being made possible right here. Or looking at direct seawater electrolysis, suppressing chlorine evolution. Because then we'll have less freshwater consumption, less desalination, fewer untreated byproducts, and more because more hydrogen from the planet's largest water resource and hydrogen production even in water scarce coastal regions become possible. So I'm not explaining each one of these. In each, I have said how these are all MLM. And of course, very proud uh, that India's major nuclear milestone, indigenously developed fast breeder reactor, recently has attained first criticality. I have not explained why this is so sort of important. That is explained in this particular slide, but that is a real major breakthrough. It will take some years before we reach the benefit, but it is there and very proud. The fusion energy, which looked like a dream, still it looks like a moonshot. But you see more and more investment in this because fusion can become the ultimate chapter, as a matter of fact. There are technical barriers, engineering barriers, and economic barriers. The costs are still high, weak supply chains for key components, insufficient public R&D and policy support is yet missing. There are engineering difficulties like complex integration of magnets, robotics, computing, no standard reactor designs, limited scalability, etc. And there are technical barriers too, like stable plasma, materials fail under heat, and so on and so forth. But work is in progress and greater investments are coming. And this is a classical example of more from less for more. Because energy is adjusted, if you see, tiny amounts of fuel, minimum long-lived radioactive waste, no carbon dioxide emissions, and you can create more virtually limitless clean electricity. And far more, because reliable energy for billions over centuries. Looks like a dream, but that dream will come true. And one only hopes sooner rather than later. About food security, I was going to say something. I was a member of the National Research Foundation, Prime Minister of Singapore's, and there, as we know, they are short of land. And how do you do urban vertical farming was a challenge that was given. It was incredible the way they were able to do more from less for more by creating vertical farming that I have described here. Similarly, there is another sustainable development goal, which is sustainable water management, which is more yield from less water for more farmers. So the concept of greenhouse in a box, modular greenhouses, requiring 90% less water in farming, enabling 7 times higher crop yields, and so on and so forth. They are benefiting currently 7,000 farmers. I see no reason why it cannot move to millions. I think the point I'm trying to make is that for each challenge that we have technological solutions. And similarly, smart water recycling networks, I think that is something that is obvious. Research, more clean air and water from less energy for more people. There are disruptive technologies which are creating MLM breakthroughs, like this 2025 Nobel Prize in Chemistry has been awarded to the discovery and development of metal organic frameworks. And a single gram of MOF could have an internal surface area of a football field, like a massive sponge, and they can trap the greenhouse gases. I think the big challenge before I finish in next 3 4 minutes is people, mind, mindsets. So there has to be people, process, and technology mindset. I remember I was on the advisory board of research advisory board of Microsoft, and I used to go to Redmond every year. And I remember meeting uh, 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 Bill Gates, and I remember he's mentioning a story, and I'll just read out the story. The story is, he said, one of my biggest memories of Harvard came in January 1975 when I made a call from Courier House to a company in Albuquerque that had begun making the world's first personal computers. I offered to sell them software. I worried that they would realize I was just a student in a dorm and would hang up on me. Instead, they said, "We are not quite ready. Come see in a month," which was a good thing because he did not have the software that he had offered. My friends, this is about talent, technology, and trust. All right. He had a trust in himself, and the company had a trust in their young boy. That's what you need. In fact, I have interacted with Steve Ballmer, the Microsoft CEO, and I remember when iPhone came, he said, "Oh, $500, fully subsidized with a plan." I said, "This is the most expensive phone in the world, and it doesn't appeal to business customers because it doesn't have a keyboard, which makes it not a very good email machine," because he looked at mobile phone as the email machine, and iPhone was ahead of time. All right. And therefore, that trust part of it is most important. Many times I say that India challenge is not budget deficit, it is trust deficit. We must have trust. And therefore, for pole vaulting, you must have high kinetic energy. But in between, if you have speed breakers, people will become speed breakers due to risk averse mindset. Whenever you are talking about disruptive MLM ideas like what I did a few minutes ago, they would first reaction is too risky. Suppose it fails, impossible, never done before. Somebody has tried it already. Let me play devil's advocate, and so on and so forth. You must make sure that none of these figure in the conversations. And there are system speed breakers also, people's speed breakers, complacency, cynicism, risk aversion, vested interest, bureaucracy, restrictive regulations. I think when we do all this, we have to get rid of all this. And this is what we tried to do. When I was DG of CSR, we created New Millennium Indian Technology Leadership Initiative, L, leadership. Why? Because Indian industry had operated in this quadrant where market certainty was high and technology certainty was high because it was proven. All right. And it was safe. We moved into an area where markets were uncertain and technology was uncertain. And it became India's biggest public private partnership, 318 public plus 100 private, based on talent, technology, trust, grand challenge driven. And government put in the financial capital. It was not venture capital, it was risk capital. It was adventure capital. They even supported private sector companies, as a matter of fact, as partners. And we moved from best practice to next practice. Just look at this. This was an outcome of the Nimitli program. We started fuel cell program when nobody talked about fuel cell in early 2000. All right. And today, thanks to KPIG Technologies as a company, uh, National Chemical Laboratory, Sekri Karaibri, and Cochin Shipyard has developed this catamaran. Now this is commercialized. Varanasi is already running that. And we have chance of creating these as green, as a Harinauka project, as it is called. Green, all waterways could be green if it is sort of employed all over India, and then we can become leaders offering these technologies to waterways because this technology is ahead of the curve and almost 30 to 40% reduction in terms of sort of cost. And I think there is another MLM that we must sort of understand, that is our strength. And the strength is the entire fuel cell program, which ran for 14 years, had an expenditure of $7 million. That's all. And if you see, for example, US Department of Energy, their 1 year budget itself was $77 million. They were trying to develop this fuel cell systems for transportation. So, ladies and gentlemen, my plea is invest more in Indian research and development. We deliver the highest intellectual capital per dollar here. And that is why there are 1,500 plus R&D centers of multinationals here. And of course, this was the bus that we actually launched. You see Ashish Lele here. Ravi Pandit in the middle. Unfortunately, he's no more. He was a great champion. We really miss him. He invested his own money, took risk, and we have these technologies today. And similarly, there are initiatives in Pune. I will not get into the detail, like Pune Hydrogen Valley, where out of the overall project cost, and it goes for production, storage, distribution, as well as the use case. And you can see three R&D partners, one network partner, and 9 industry partners, how they are working together. It's all about Team India. Here in this case, of course, Team Pune working together. So these things are entirely sort of possible. I must say that in order to assure success, uh, somebody asked me, how do you make sure that when you pole vault, you don't break your back? So our chapter 3 in that book actually says how to get assured success, affordable, scalable, sustainable, universal, rapid, excellent, and distinctive. This is a framework that is being now used in order to judge. In fact, we started using it when Swachh Bharat initiative came up, thanks to our Honorable Prime Minister. I remember chairing the committee to select the technologies. We started using that in government, drinking water and sanitation. And now this assured framework, which is kind of semi-quantitative, is being used by research institutes, startups, SMEs, corporates, investors, innovation accelerators, and so on and so forth. So when you do MLM to assure success, make sure that the assured matrix is made together. Finally, General Bipin Rawat is no more, but when he read the book, uh, leapfrogging to pole vaulting, he said, time has come to move from leapfrogging to pole vaulting. And the time has come that we pole vault, not just leapfrog reactively. And this is my last slide. I think the 17 SDGs have many targets, but one common in innovation principle, more in more from less for more, because it has science of sustainability, ethics of equity, and most importantly, inclusion written all over it. And therefore, it, MLM is not just a concept, it's an aspiration for a fair, just, equitable, and inclusive world. Thank you. Thank you very much.